like the woman at the well, John chapter 4, and just let me read these scriptures to you as we close. John chapter 4:29, you will be able to say, come, meet a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? Come meet a man who told me everything I've ever did. What do we learn from this scripture? We learn a couple things. Number one, we learn God knows everything you've done. God knows everything you've done. God knows everywhere you've been. God knows every emotion that you've experienced. God knows every thought that you've thought. God knows every action that you've taken. God knows everything that we've done. But what we need to accept to be able to stay in the room of grace and not fall away from grace is accept this. Number one, accept God knows everything we've done. But more importantly, He knows everything about you. But more importantly, understand this. You don't know everything about God. More importantly than accepting that God knows everything about you, more importantly is this. You don't know everything about God. You don't have God figured out. You don't know the limits of His power. You don't know the limits of His love. You don't know the limits of His grace. You don't know the limits of His mercy and His forgiveness. God is awesome. God is almighty. Except that He knows everything. We can comprehend that and comprehend this. You don't know everything about Him. You don't have Him figured out. So you can't say it's too late. There's no chance. There's no hope because you don't know God. Come meet a man that told me everything about me. And number two, she asked this question, could this be the Christ? You know, number two, I really believe this, that the Christ that wants to meet you, that the Christ you're going to meet in the room of grace is a Christ you've never met before. The Jews thought they had it down. The Jews were religious. The Jews tried this and they tried that and they wore this and they wore that and they lived a certain way. And she had to ask this question. You would think that they would know, but they didn't know because the emphasis was on their efforts and not grace. And she had to ask this question, could this be the Christ? I believe that many of you are going to walk into the room of grace and start living your Christian life in a different way. And you're going to meet a man that you've never met before. And you're going to say, oh my God, is this the Christ? Could this be the Christ that my soul has been crying for? John chapter 1 verse 14. John says this, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen His glory, the glory of the one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. And so this Jesus stands at the room of grace. He stands at the door. He knocks. And He says, please open the door, come in. And this is what He says to you. Come to me, all you who are weary, all you who are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle, I am humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.